Welcome to the ETF Education series brought to you by ASX, Betashares and Commsec. I am Jacinta King, Business Development Manager, Investment Products at ASX, and I'm joined in studio by Thomas Wickenden, Investment Strategist from Betashares, and Tom Piotrawski, Market Analyst from Commsec. Welcome, Tom and Tom.
Hi, Jacinta.
Great to be here.
The two Toms. Random fact: the historical meaning of Thomas I discovered is twins. Interestingly, so let's see how twin-like you are throughout our conversation.
I'm sure people will pick up on the differences quite quickly.
Look, this is the third of four short series where we are discussing exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, as they are commonly referred to. And if you've seen the earlier two series, we have talked about what they are and how you might want to use them if you choose to invest in them. And today we want to look at how to compare ETFs and track performance. So, Tom, where can investors start?
Jacinta, I think that's a great question because that's what screeners can help you out with a lot. Now, I suppose screener is not something that is common in the language of the average person. So if you want to get a sense of what a ETF screener is all about, it's really just like a search engine for ETFs. So most ETF providers will have an ETF screener for the ETFs they provide. You can have screeners that actually capture much larger universes in relation to ETFs more broadly. So it's a really good opportunity to be able to find things that match your needs in terms of costs, precisely what you want to be investing in, and indeed, of course, performance, which is arguably one of the most important elements of what you want to get to tin tacks with when it comes to an ETF. So how cheap it is, what it's investing in, and how well it's done. And that's just the beginning of what an ETF screener is all about.
And are there some key features that people might want to compare? Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a good point, Tom. It's a great place to start is with an ETF screener or a universe, so you can find particular ETFs that are actually like for like. I think a really important point is, not all ETFs are comparable. Some ETFs will be tracking, broad market Australia index. Some will be tracking cybersecurity companies. So, firstly, finding out what the most comparable ETFs to compare are. Then, once you've done that, Jacinta, to your question, some of the most important features to compare at a high level when you're making sure, or if you're checking if they are, like for like, things like their sector allocation, their geographical allocation, the actual, top 10 holdings. What's really great about ETFs and ETF providers' websites, as well as, brokers and the exchanges, they're really transparent ETFs. So all of this information is really readily available, which makes it really easy to compare them if you know the right places to look.
Yeah, I mean, in simple terms, it's like getting under the bonnet of the ETF. So, you can get a sense of what makes up the component parts of the ETF that you're interested in. But the thing is, it can vary from the very simple, like an ETF that tracks an index. That's a pretty straightforward vanilla type of thing. But where, as you pointed out, the variance can come is in how much it costs. So you'll be able to assess how competitive things are on a cost basis if you're looking at precisely the same thing. But then you can get into very niche areas, and that's where things can vary a little bit more. Being able to access that is quite important. So robotics or AI has become so fashionable in our conversation at the moment. If you want to work out how to access those ETFs, a screener is the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I'd say too, based on that, the car analogy is a good one because at the high level, if you're not a very big car enthusiast, you'll see different looking types of cars, see what they look like, and if that's good enough, you can buy it off that. Or you might be a car mechanic and you can go all the way under the hood into the ETF's PDF, into the index methodology. And these are the documents that really break down the nitty gritty of ETFs. Look, not all investors need to go to that extent. We do recommend reading the PDFs of the product. But I guess what I'm trying to say is there are multiple levels to comparing ETFs, and what's great is that you're able to do so.
So continuing on the car analogy, I'm going to shift gears and move us into a new question. If an investor is sitting there and thinking, I want to invest in ETFs, and how do I track performance on an ongoing basis? So maybe Tom, if you want to cover that for us.
Yeah, of course. It's a really important question, and just like the other attributes of an ETF, the performance is also made readily available by the exchanges, by the brokers, and by the fund providers. At a higher level, if you're looking for tracking performance daily, a great way to do that is through a watch list on a broker website or the exchange website. If you do want to get a bit of a deeper understanding of performance, though, a great place to look is the ETF fund providers' websites. Each ETF will have its own fund page, and on there you can find long-term performance, distribution history, things like franking credits for Australian investors. So yeah, it's really just knowing what resources are out there and utilising those.
Yeah, and not only the numbers and figures, but there's the market commentary, the quarterly or mid-year and end-of-year can be helpful as well, which is provided on investment product provider websites.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about a screener is that it affords you the complexity or the simplicity that you're looking for. So if you're just new to this landscape, then obviously what you're trying to do is just make sense of things and simplify things. And a screener can do that because you can reduce the elements that you're wanting to define your little universe with. And that's great. You then become more comfortable with it. And as your knowledge and confidence expands, then you can kind of delve into different elements of the complexity of things. So it really is one of the great education tools when it comes to the ETF landscape, a screener. And yes, you can have a very narrow universe which can be measured by the provider's screener, or there are a more agnostic screeners that capture a much larger universe as well. So it all depends on where you are in that education process as you move through things as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Tom and Tom, the two Toms, thank you. Really appreciate your time, and I trust that has helped our listeners, giving them starting points on how to think about comparing ETFs and tracking performance.
Thanks very much, Jacinta.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacinta.